What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Sibling Duo podcast. I'm Daniel,
And I'm Tiffany.
and this is episode 5.
Yes, sir. Well, today we'll jump right in, and basically today we're going to talk about a different topic, something that Daniel and I both have. It's a medical condition that, just affects the way that we have to eat and all that sort of stuff. So, Daniel, you want to start by just kind of explaining what we have?
Yeah, we're going to talk
Oh,
about.
shoot. What am I doing? Guys, you all know the signature. All right, keep going, Daniel.
So, essentially, Tiffany and I both have a condition, something called mastocytic colitis. Let's talk about our symptoms first. So, as a kid, Tiffany and I would both have really uncomfortable stomach abdominal pain after we ate food. It would just be very, very bad after we ate. I would have especially almost chronic diarrhea, throwing up almost every other week or every week sometimes. I'd have cold sores in my mouth. I have a rash on my body, like these bumps. And it was very, very confusing, very, very painful. Tiffany, what do you remember from that time?
Well, I'd say you definitely had it worse. And you were the one that were going to the doctors and getting all the testing. And then, um, I just started after dinner every night, just going onto like my mom's lap and just like, I just had belly pain. And honestly, like, it was just kind of normal. Like, now thinking back, it wasn't normal, but like in the moment, it was like, oh yeah, I just ate. Like, now I have belly pain.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if that's how it was for you, but yeah, I definitely say you were the one that had to go through all the testing, and then I just got to reap the benefits of then once you figured out what it was, I just kind of followed. But yeah, it was definitely very sad to watch what you had to go through because like I remember taking you to school and you would just like be so uncomfortable and just in so much pain. And I mean, there's just we went to doctors all the time to try to figure it out, and it just kind of never. Well, we can get into that later, I
Yeah.
guess. But
Yeah. What's interesting is I always had some sort of problem. Like my mom always tells us that like even when I was like a baby or an infant, like I was having irritation. She could tell after eating food. And I think it progressed and got worse. I think that could have been partially because what I was eating was worse as I got into like elementary school.
and
We're
you
gonna
want
talk.
to eat all the cool things
Yeah,
like the
all.
Lunchables and all that.
Yeah, exactly. All the which my mom never let us have Lunchables unless we went on an airplane, and so it was like our special thing, which is just terrible
Yeah,
that like I thought it was special, but it's because all the cool kids had them, man, and they did a
they're
great
kind
job.
of disgusting though.
I know they're so, but I just did a presentation at school about this in college,
Really?
and man, it is just terrible. And they did a great job marketing it to kids, and it became just part of culture, you know. But yes,
Yeah.
we would like sometimes never be able to make it to school,
Yeah.
because I have to stop at like the Publix right by our house, and
And guys, the drive was like 8 minutes. It wasn't
yeah,
that far.
it
So
just
yeah.
it was one of those things where, as you're saying, it did feel very normal to just like always
Mhm.
have this pain because I never had lived without it essentially. And um, as you grew older, we started seeing the same problems that I was
Yeah.
having as you continued to get older. So we kind of knew that it was something both of us were dealing with. So basically, what ended up happening is I went through all these sort of tests and whatnot. And, third grade, I remember like the first week of school, I was having like a really bad week with it. And like I threw up in the bathroom, like on my first days there, had to miss recess. And it was just like, it was one of those things where I realized that I wasn't like everyone else and that I was having this problem and it was actually stopping me from doing things in life. So what ended up happening is after basically years of tests, I ended up doing scope, and what ended up happening was um, all everything came back normal. So it was like, oh great, now Daniel's a perfect little kid. Everything's great with you. And then they decided to run one more test, and for whatever reason on that biopsy what they ran came back positive for this specific type of disease. And so the doctor was like, great, what we're gonna do is we're gonna treat basically what's happening. And what is happening is something called mastocytosis, and it can happen anywhere in anyone's body, but it's where, due to an allergen that's being put in your body or in your environment, your cells, specifically a type of white blood cell called mast cells, begin to abnormally replicate in an area of your body, and then that causes the symptoms. And so for us, that was in like my intestines, this is in my gut. And so that caused all the symptoms I was having: the pain, the diarrhea, the throwing up, all of that. And so he said, great, we're going to take this medicine and it's going to kind of basically limit the amount of that overreaction that's going to happen and should solve the pain for the most part. So I started drinking this stuff before I would eat every meal. And for the most part, my pain did decrease. It went down significantly. I wasn't throwing up as much, didn't have as many like flare ups, but unfortunately, I think my body almost got a resistance to that medication, and we had to go back and say like it's not working. We're getting the symptoms. I'm getting these symptoms again. So we doubled the medication, which doubles the amount of taking, also doubles the cost of the medication. So here my family is paying for this medicine that's just masking the problem, and I'm just accepting this as my normal life. And enters my mom, who just like, it's so weird to think, why could no one else in the medical field have common sense but my mom? Like,
Yeah.
but she was the one that basically was like, well, if something's causing the
Yeah.
overreaction, what's the allergen that's causing it? And it was as simple as saying, let's start taking things out. And she had done a lot of research, and the genetically modified wheat in America, she's like, well, let's start with that. And what's funny is that my doctor had me go uh, off gluten, off wheat, and dairy at the same time, almost like a year before that, or years before that, and was like, "Oh, you do it for a few weeks, see what happens." And my symptoms did decrease, but they didn't go away. Um, I mean, of course, you're taking out the problem, right? So I took out the problem, but here I was still having symptoms a few weeks in. But my mom found out that it takes a long time for that allergen, the wheat that was in my body, to get out of my system. And so she was like, we're just getting rid of it completely. Good, 2-3 months and see what's going to happen. And sure enough, 3 months in, I have no pain. I have no symptoms. Neither of us are having any of the problems we had before. My cold sores were gone. My rash was gone. I wasn't throwing up anymore. I didn't have any stomach pain, no diarrhea. And boom, here we are today. And I don't have to do anything, no medicine, nothing. And the whole reason is my mom had common sense.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is like when the doctor told us that you had mastocytic colitis, he said you'll never find out the reason. There's obviously something that's triggering his gut that's making this response, so that there's pain there, but he was like you'll just never find out why. And so that's when my mom was like, but no, there has to be a reason. And I mean, it's honestly kind of sad that the doctor just was like stopped at that and was like, just let's cover up the pain, because
Yeah.
it's just, yeah. But I mean, thank goodness that, my mom was able to put in the time and like energy to completely take out gluten for those 2 months, three
Yep.
months. And then, I mean, it's crazy how now no medicine, no symptoms, nothing. And it's just that simple.
It's that
And
simple.
yeah.
So that is why we are gluten free, and there's a lot of other reasons other people are.
Yep.
And there's sometimes just like misconceptions about why people do things like we have to do, but it's very important for us, and it's obviously helped us. Um, it is very frustrating to me to, obviously my story ended well. Our story ended with victory, in the sense of we don't have pain anymore, we don't have any symptoms, and that was thanks to our mom. But there are many people that are just normal Americans that are living like this, not necessarily my condition, but it is chronic illness that is
Yep.
related to food that we eat.
Your teacher actually had arthritis in third grade and she went gluten free. It took away her arthritis. Like, it's just crazy stuff like that that you wouldn't even think about. Like, people that have bad headaches and then they take gluten out and all of a sudden they don't have headaches. It's just crazy what the gluten can do to your body.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean, let's just break it down. So obviously, we're talking specifically about the genetically modified wheat in America. That is the source of the problem for us and for many other problems that people are dealing with. But let's look at America as a whole. Little Jimmy, who lives in a small town, raised a middle class family, goes to school bright and early, okay, is awakened out of his slumber way too early to hop on the bus or drive to school, where he's forced to sit in a classroom for like 7 hours to 8 hours a day, and then has a lunch break where the food that he's fed is just ultra processed food that is high in sodium, high in sugar, that is lacking in nutrients, that has basically no nutritional value and has toxins and chemicals in it. And we're expecting that he's going to be able to get through the entire day with enough energy and with a strong immune system to fight all the germs at school with just that food, plus whatever sugary stuff he ate for breakfast. And then he's supposed to go to extracurricular activities and come home and do homework for 2 hours while somehow getting to bed on time to do it all over again and maybe getting some sort of good dinner from his parents. Like, we wonder why America is having the problems that it's having, but like, this is literally the problem. Like, we are not taking care of ourselves. The corporate system that is running healthcare has basically ruined how prices are. Insurance is just a disaster, and basically the entire system is broken. And yet we are expected to somehow live happy, healthy, normal lives, and we have to fight back to even have a chance to do that. And it's very overwhelming because people are like, well, where do you even start? And like, sometimes you gotta start with just one thing. Like, if you like look on the box of ingredients of the food you're buying and you can't like understand the majority of them, you should probably not buy that product. And like, just start with that. Like, literally, that's one thing. But it's very sad, and it's very frustrating to me.
Yeah. I think going gluten free for us also made us aware of all that, in the sense of it made us more aware of what we put in our body. And also with being athletes and stuff like that, I think it's really cool to just learn more about that, like all the different things, all the different like nutrients and stuff that your body needs. And so yeah, it's just really cool because like there are really good stuff like that taste really good that are so much better for your body. And so yeah.
I think one thing that I want to remind everyone that may hear this at some point is that, like, you as an individual have to be able to recognize if the care you're getting is not good. So, like, not all doctors are bad, and we have in our life great doctors, but there are some bad doctors, and some of those doctors are simply in the system that is already broken and almost have just become complacent and are just going through the cycle that they're almost told to do. And so you have to be almost very assertive and almost demand the care that you need, while on your own also doing research and figuring out like what is causing the problem I'm having. Because while there are like very sad chronic illnesses that are caused by some things we cannot control, a lot of these illnesses can be prevented. And it's just the world that we live in is not healthy. It's not giving us the opportunity to do that. Like other countries, they have huge rates of death from infectious diseases, from things that are just coming through the country and just killing people. But our country really doesn't have that problem. We have a lot of like ways that we prevent those type of diseases. But what our problem is chronic illness, and chronic food illness is stuff that's related directly to the food that we eat, and it for some reason is just ignored, and it's very troubling. Tiffany and I have had success, and thankfully are on the other side of what was a very hard time in our life. And sometimes you just gotta use common sense, and you gotta just be your own advocate for your healthcare. Um, it's frustrating as a nursing student in college to realize how broken the system is. Um, and I apologize that that is the case. But
Go
there,
fix it, Daniel.
but the thing is, it can't be fixed by one person, but collectively, there are ways that this can kind of be turned around. Um, but yeah, just keep some common sense in your brain and go make good choices.
Well, we hope you guys have a great week, and it was great to see you, Daniel, and be able to
Yeah, good talking
talk.
to you, Tiffany.
And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.